24 minutes after the America 2, Hugh and I have been covering a lot today. Obamacare, the B-plus the president's given himself, the fact he's calling people in Washington and New York fat cats. But the biggest damage he could probably do this week and next is in Copenhagen, if he goes over there and does more than pose. And joining me to discuss about that threat is Vince Haley. Vince is the Vice President for Policy at American Solutions for Winning the Future. Hi, Vince. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hi, Hugh. Great to be with you.
Give me some sense of what you fear most coming out of Copenhagen, Vince.
Sure. I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of days about the climate gate, these emails that have gone back and forth. There's talk about the cost. But in my view, the most dangerous thing about what the president is talking about and his team is talking about is the damage to the American constitutional system, which they are threatening. And what I mean by that is, in our system of government, we have the legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Everybody knows this from grade school, that the legislature makes the laws, including the tax laws, and the executive carries them out. What the president is proposing is that the Constitution clearly says that in international agreements, the Senate has to concur by two-thirds with any kind of treaty. The president is saying that by going to Copenhagen, even though the Senate is not passing cap and trade right now, and it looks to be, by all accounts, stalled, that he can nevertheless sign an agreement and on his own authority implement, through the Environmental Protection Agency, a system of regulation which would be punitive in nature and to be effective would have to be just as effective as a cap and trade regime, which we all know, and you've been discussing on your show, would be billions and billions of dollars in taxation. So the president is actually making an assertion and a claim for enhanced executive power that is breathtaking.
Now, in terms of the comparison with Kyoto, you've written a column which spells out the difference between Al Gore in Japan signing Kyoto and what is going down in Copenhagen right now. Explain to people what that is.
Sure. 12 years ago, 1997, the big discussion was Kyoto, and they had a similar climate change conference. In the run-up to that conference, the Senate took a vote. It was 95-0. It was the sense of the Senate resolution, and it said, directed toward the executive branch, you should not sign any international agreement that does not have binding emission limits on all countries, or don't sign anything that's going to cause material damage to the U.S. economy. 95-0. Well, nevertheless, Al Gore went to the Kyoto Summit conference in 1997. He signed it on behalf of the United States. And when he got home, President Clinton never submitted that to the U.S. Senate for ratification. The reason he did not is that he knew it was dead on arrival. It did not have binding emission limits on China and India, the two largest emitters right now. And so it was dead on arrival. So today what we have is the same dynamic at play. You have the Senate of the United States not able to pass a cap and trade bill. And even though they haven't, the Senate has not, made a sense of the Senate resolution, it is so stalled that it's effectively dead, which is almost the equivalent of telling the president, look, we don't have the votes to sustain any kind of international agreement. Nevertheless, President Obama and his EPA administrator, Lisa Jackson, is saying, don't worry about the Senate. Don't worry about American democracy. I can do it on my own.
I'm talking with Vince Haley. He is Vice President for Policy at AmericanSolutions.org, AmericanSolutions.com, AmericanSolutions.com. Vince, in terms of pushing back, Jim Webb is a Democrat, Blue Dog Democrat, really, senator from Virginia, war hero, longtime Reagan administration official. He has sent a pretty tough letter to the president. What's the significance of Webb's letter to the president?
Well, a couple things. One, he's a member of the president's party, so anytime you have a Democratic senator sending something to the president of his own party, we have to take note. And this senator from Virginia, my state, wrote the president and reminded him gently in language saying, I've read in the paper that you're suggesting that you can unilaterally commit the United States to an internationally binding agreement. And he said, you will remember from your time here in the Senate, quote, only specific legislation agreed upon in the Congress or a treaty ratified by the Senate could actually create such a commitment on behalf of our country, close quote. And he asked the president to get back to him and clarify in advance of the Copenhagen meeting this understanding. Now, as far as I know, we've checked with Senator Webb's office, and he hasn't received any response yet from the president. But that's a senator from his own party trying to remind him of elementary facts of our American constitutional system. The reason this is so serious, I mean, the Federalist Papers, write about this. Joining the powers of the legislative, executive, and judiciary into the same hands, i.e. the EPA, is the very definition of tyranny. It's the very reason this would be taxation without representation. This is the reason we fought the American Revolutionary War, and we threw those tea boxes off in Boston Harbor so many years ago. I'm not sure the president understands how serious of principles at stake in what he's undertaking at Copenhagen.
Especially with the regulatory push that's underway, the diktat from EPA. There's another one underway, by the way, over at the Department of Interior America, where the Secretary of the Interior is mobilizing climate change authority there to regulate any kind of land use, combined with EPA regulating kind of emission. It would be sort of a massive bureaucratic state. What's American Solutions doing about this, Vince?
Well, we're doing a couple things, two things. One, we're taking an ad out in the Summit newspaper, and that's going to probably be published on Thursday and addressed to the American delegates and the rest of the world in Copenhagen, reminding them about American constitutional principles, that we actually are governed by we the people, not we dictators or we people in largely undemocratic states. That's one thing we're going to do, so that people have sort of a manifesto and a very easy to understand framework what's at stake. And then secondly, we're going to activate our million members and have them call their senators and like Jim Webb, ask their senators to remind the president that he's not a king, he's not King George III, he's a president of a republic, not a king of a monarchy, and that we are citizens, not subjects.
Vince, how do people join American Solutions if they want to get that email to be alerted?
Sure, they can go to AmericanSolutions.com. They'll see the information on this campaign and sign up. And we'd hope that people would sign their name to the advertisement we're going to take out in the Danish newspaper.
Hey, Vince, thank you for joining me very quickly. Are you an optimist on Obamacare? Are we going to stop that at least for 209?
I am an optimist. I don't think they're going to have anything like the kind of cost involved with the situation the way it's going now. One other thing about Obamacare, as it relates to EPA, just imagine if Secretary Sebelius all of a sudden said on her own, geez, I'm getting impatient with this debate. I think on my own authority, I'm going to impose all this reordering of our healthcare system, just like the EPA is doing in energy.
Vince, we're out of time. From American Solutions, Vince Haley, thank you, my friend. I'll be right back. AmericanSolutions.com if you want to join up. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.